should friends keep secrets for each other?
I mean, depends on what kind of friend, what level of friendship you guys have.
So do you think the closest level of friendship, highest level friendship, level 100 friendship involves keeping secrets for the other person?
I feel okay on this. I feel like you're at that level of friendship. Secrets should be, but at the same time, you shouldn't feel like there should be any need to not share anything. And even if you do feel that way, like you should be able to trust them, you know.
Okay.
Because
Um,
the thing is like um at that point, it's more like their family to you. So you care a lot more about the person, therefore like you are scared of disappointing them.
but don't you think there's okay? So this is like my mindset is always if I don't have any business to, if it wouldn't be helpful to tell somebody if it, like if there's no way I can help by telling somebody, then there's no reason to say it. If there would only be like gossip or whatever, clearly that wouldn't be chill. Like I wouldn't just tell somebody just to have an interesting conversation. But if somebody tells me something that I think telling somebody might help the situation, or that I think would like,
Well, yeah, of course that makes sense because you're trying to help the person.
but I've done that even in situations when the person asked me not to tell anybody, don't try to help. Like I that's the kind of person I am. I'm like a fixer. If I think it'll be helpful, I just like can't stop myself from doing it. And
Yeah, I
this
mean,
becomes increasingly so the more I care about the person. Like,
I know totally. I know that,
yeah,
and like I don't have a problem with that at all. It's more like I don't have anything against it, to be honest. Because the thing is, like, yeah, there are times where I get hecka mad. Like, why are you doing this? Da, da, da. Or like, I told you not to tell anybody. I thought this was between me and you. But like, your intentions have always been good.
yeah. I don't have any like.
Yeah.
I think this it comes from like not having a big circle of friends. I don't really get anything about like. I wouldn't have friends that talked bad about my other friends, or I wouldn't have friends that I gossiped about other friends behind their backs. To me, if I have a friend, like a real friend, then I can only have good intentions about like conversations that I have about them.
Well, I mean, if you're at that point of a friendship and you think that way what, about the friendship, like, you're a psychopath.
I
You
mean,
know?
it's
No, because like the reason why I say that is because like you're talking about the level 100 friendships. So you're talking about like that's your go-to person, you know? And if you're thinking about that go-to person all the time, or not even all the time, but even subconsciously, you're just like, I'm only friends with this person because I get something out of them, then like at that point, it's not even like you're not you're not treating them the way they should because they're that type of friend, you know?
yeah, I would say like there may like maybe like 60% of people, or maybe higher, like if you ask them what like how they think about their closest friend, the closest friend they've ever had, I don't think I think 60% of people would say that they haven't reached the level to which they literally only think of good for that person. Like, so in other words, they've never had a level 100 friendship with anyone.
Yeah, I mean, like look at it this way. Um, Me and you, we approach things differently. We communicate differently. We show we show that we care about a person differently.
Yeah, we
And,
did. Definitely.
and I don't know. I always say this. I always say this. If you can't be friends with somebody and and have different opinions, like this that's not really a friend, you know? Like because if you're only friends with people that you're always having the same opinions with, you're essentially being friends with yourself.
Yeah, and that's the whole love yourself culture that I don't like. I mean,
Yeah, and like I mean I'm not there's a good and a bad side to it. Like
yeah,
I say that there's good because like you're becoming more self-confident or like you're doing better in your life, but at the same time like the whole love yourself culture, you're not really invested in anybody else. And the level of like human communication is way different compared to um, a friend that you rarely talk to or than a friend that you can always trust everything.
yeah, because to be honest, you shouldn't always trust yourself. Like you're gonna fail yourself big, and then you will literally have no one to turn to because it it's just you. Like what are you building if you're just getting to know yourself really well? The longer you get to know yourself, like you just spend a lot of time with yourself trying to get to know yourself, you're gonna find out you're missing
I
a
feel like
lot.
there's a perfect example in the Bible for this. It's Ecclesiastes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like the idea of um
Because Solomon was the wisest. I say was the wisest man on earth. The reason why is because he didn't lead a per se perfect life.
yeah.
And for me, the person that led the quote unquote perfect life that wasn't Jesus is Daniel.
Yeah, I was gonna say Daniel.
And like
It's either Daniel or Joseph. But even
they,
Joseph, there's
I don't
something.
like yeah I don't like using Joseph because of the whole like stealing your brother from your brother thing is controversial.
You think like
I feel like he could have. I feel I mean
he could have just revealed it straight up, but he played a little prank on him.
yeah he could have he literally could have went about it a different way.
I feel like he's the Zoomer version of good guy in the Bible. Like he's playing pranks. He did it for the YouTube video, and
Yeah, but like if you think about it back then,
there was no
um,
YouTube, and
yeah, and the consequences of what he did at the time, even though it reaped like hella benefit, like it really did like scare his family.
yeah, like half to death, and made them have to cross a desert like a couple times. So
Yeah,
that's pretty BM.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
So like
Daniel is
I don't
definitely.
know if I don't know like I don't know if that's like his level of humor or his level of revenge at that point.
That is true. I never really thought about that. I always thought like when it comes to thinking of who, like whether Joseph is perfect or not, I always thought like, well, when he was a kid, he kind of like he had like no tact. It almost seemed like he was bragging about his dreams about dominating his brothers,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, it's not clear in the Bible. That's why Joseph is sort of an arguable case where the Bible doesn't record him like sinning per se, but it also like it records a lot more about the things he said to people, and that like could be like there could have been like motives that he had, but they're not had that would make those things like sort of questionable morally, but it's not exactly it.
Crazy
Whereas
because
Daniel
like
doesn't. Yeah,
it's crazy. Joseph's story is crazy, and Daniel's story is crazy in the fact that okay, wait, no, Daniel had a group
both
of
of them involve being sold into slavery, so there is that.
true, but I'm trying to say is that Daniel had a group of friends around him that the Bible doesn't mention like supporting his faith, but like could have happened. Um,
Yeah, it does sort of. I mean,
with
the other.
Joseph, he was always alone.
Yeah, I mean, he made friends, but not like friends. He just was like there were people that he helped, but nobody that he could grow close to. Anybody that he sort of like became good friends with, like Potiphar, somebody came and screwed it up. Like I mean, he may have even described like the owner of the prison as a friend, like because
Mhm.
he just was like very kind to him. But like, it, I mean, he was just so helpful to his friends, and they were just no help to him that it's hard to say that it was like a one-on-one friendship. I mean,
I mean, in that case, like that just says that's like fundamental, right? When you're being good and doing good, you shouldn't expect anything out of anybody.
That's
Uh,
definitely true. That's
And
that's both
I mean,
Joseph and Daniel too.
yeah,
Interpreting dreams, and yeah, they're actually very analogous. It just seems like Daniel was more,
there are more accounts of Daniel standing up for his faith
for sure, like directly
because,
standing up for his faith. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, David, I mean, not David, Joseph did godly things, but I don't ever recall him like claiming.
The God of Israel.
Yeah,
He
it was
does
more
he
like,
does claim the God of Israel when he interprets the Pharaoh's dream, and he takes like a stand. I think not really stand for his faith, but he takes a moral stand. That's what most people pull out of Joseph's story when he doesn't sleep with his master's wife.
I don't like using I don't like using the moral stand foundation. The reason why is because I don't like using it as a foundation.
Because I'm sure that it's widely agreed even in Egypt that you shouldn't sleep with your master's wife.
Yeah, it's
Not
like
a Christian thing, not a God's
it's
people thing.
it's literally it like feeds into the argument that like, oh, I don't hold the same belief as you, but my life is just as good. Like, what makes me different?
Yeah, it's like Joseph didn't. His position was in that time was not to be the person that, like, I mean, God didn't put him in that position to like convert the Egyptians. God had a different plan. So other than pointing out to Pharaoh that it was God who revealed the interpretation of the dream, I don't believe Joseph ever makes any claims of faith. The only other thing I guess is that he doesn't want to be buried in Egypt, so he places an importance that, like, on the Jews' exit from Egypt eventually.
But in terms of like friendship, going back to that, a lot of it seems selfish at first. The reason why I say that is because you get to know a person and everything that most of the time when you are meet like having a new friend or whatever, you're getting to know them based on you're either interested in their story and that's just selfish, or like you have the same values as the as that person.
I
And
would
you,
say,
even if you have like, oh, a good conversation, even though you guys have a different values, um more often than not, you're talking to that person for your own gain to just broaden your views.
yeah, I think that then it comes down to motive, right? Because it could be that, like, I mean, you can have the same conversation, but if your motive is different, it can be selfish or not selfish, right?
Which I mean, like,
But usually when you're just
saying that,
starting
yeah.
to get interested in talking to someone, it's usually because, I mean, that's what interest is. It's a selfish thing.
And honestly, like, I honestly feel this way, and it's like in the beginning of a relationship, in any relationship, selfishness is not only like a safety net, but like it's okay.
It's sort of like the Tinder for the fire, so to say.
What
Because
are you trying to allude to?
I'm not trying to allude to anything, but I am saying that, yeah, interest is like a selfish thing, but it's like what is the beginning of all sort of adult relationships. I mean, even if you go back in time, like to when we became friends, like we were young, it's probably just because we made
Not even
laugh.
adult relationships, adult relationships in general. When yeah, you said when we were kids, like
oh, I found the people that make me laugh. I just want to hang out with this guy.
Yeah, popular kids were only friends with the popular kids, and like the like people were only friends with the same interests, and that was so much more apparent in high school.
Yeah, people were definitely like, it was especially pronounced there, I think, just because there was such a clear stratification. It's mostly because I think everybody goes to high school, and it's just the people that live around that go to the high school that you end up with that stratification of like society. You end up with like the people that are like this and the people that are like that. But when you go to like college, it becomes a bit different, where like there are different classes of people. There are still like the people that are in sports.
Yeah, it's the same. It's basically the same thing, but it's at a whole different level of like communication.
But I just remembered like it being such a different space because like I was I think I'm not trying to like say something great here. I'm not trying to like boost myself up by saying this, but I think the high school that I went to. You also,
Mhm.
I'm I think when I was a senior in that high school, I was easily the smartest child.
All right, all right. We get it.
I wasn't the valedictorian though. I was only the salutatorian. So
But I mean, like, you make that argument sound like you're trying to be humble, but like
I mostly throw that out there as a joke to point out that
you like when you're talking about that specific topic seriously, you always talk about how the valedictorian's title was stolen.
yeah, I mean the person that got it cheated in most of the classes she took in senior year, and I didn't point that out. I look even in that year, right? There was an English final at the end of that year, and our English teacher came in and told us the grades on this final may determine who is valedictorian and who is salutatorian. Me and that girl know exactly who is in competition for that position. She just like up to that point, we seniors have just started cheating together. Like we would just throw out answers like out loud if the teacher were to leave the room. And at that time, she just left the room and asking. I mean, all right, bleep that out. She just started asking for answers. Dude, we go to a small school. Hopefully, they never see this. She's getting married. She's a chill person now, but like, man, she was really checked out the last year of high school. She started asking for answers, and I just started giving them because I didn't care at all. So it's like I could have metagamed that if I really cared. I mean, she went to Biola, I went to Berkeley, very different people.
Yeah.
All right. Hopefully I can just cut out all this flexing because I hate what I've become. But my point is that like I went to Berkeley where almost everybody is as smart or smarter than me. Like I feel like I'm on the low end of intelligent people at Berkeley, and yet all of them are very humble. Like I feel like all of them also feel like they're in the lower end, except for like a few South Korean kids who think that they're smarter than everybody because they're right. They actually are smarter than everybody. But like, so like it was actually much easier to make friends at Berkeley, even though a lot of them, and it comes to like making friends and like killing your ego. I remember I got used to the phrase like I just don't know how to do that. I'm just not good at that. Like, can you help me with this? Like the person I met on my first day, this guy named Nick. He's a Mormon. I've been witnessing to him. I need to contact him again, man. I sort of went missing, but like, we met on the first day, and he became my lab partner for that year, and he also became my lab partner for a few other years back when I was in pre-med. I don't remember like chem labs, like wet labs. I hated them. I was so bad at them. I would just like, hey Nick, can you do this? Hey, can you check this? Like, hey, can I copy what's in your notebook? Just like such a homie. And it's like we didn't like he didn't think less of me, I don't think, just because I wasn't good at like lab. Because I think once you get into college, people become more aware of like, oh, people are good at some things and not good at others, and like people are specialized. Because most of us, I think, feel like we got into college by accident. Like they made a mistake on the admission and like let people in by accident, which is evidenced by the fact they always let in more people than they can house. It's like, how do you not know? A bunch of us were mistakes. I'm gonna tell you, I hella scammed the admissions process because
Oh my gosh.
I said that I was taking AP classes and I did not get. I got a
You
one.
said it here, folks.
I'm a fraud. I'm a graduated fraud. I scammed Berkeley out of a degree. But I gave him a lot of money along the way. So was it really a scam? Who knows? But when it came to like making friends, right? Like I didn't have that much success outside of crew, and I only started having success in crew after I started inviting Joseph. I don't know why I said your name. After I started inviting you, I'm just talking to you. After I started inviting you to crew, I started having more success, like, learning about people, and then like,
Because I had to force you.
yeah, you had to force me, and I knew you had to force me because I literally invited you there to force me. Like, you were doing unpaid personal social trainer gigs for me. You got to do 15 reps of talking to people. Because honestly, without that push, because of the fact that I am a commuter and I just can drive home, like sit in my car and be by myself. That's like my natural state. Uh, when I went to crew meetings, I used to just not talk to people, and that's very easy to do. That's actually just one of the things I've found is like become good about this quarantine is a lot more people in crew will talk to each other, people that never would have interacted before.
Yeah, that actually happened to me a lot this semester. Because like working all the time, like I wouldn't spend any time after school rather than to just study. And I would just go home and go to work. And like,
But you don't count the social interaction you had at work as social interaction, but it really
no,
is.
I mean it is, but like you're not investing in anybody.
I mean, you had like real friendships with those people. Like, them.
I say you're not investing in anybody because no, you're right. I did have real friendships with them.
I guess if you consider investment is like time you would be spending doing something else that you would spend on a person instead. Or time that
Yeah,
you would
that's what I
spend
mean.
doing nothing. But you didn't have any of that time at the time. So you literally could
But
invest.
even then, like back then, I used to work too. If I really wanted to, I could have just taken time off. And like
Yeah.
I got so what I'm trying to say is I got so used to being in the motion, and that's why I like never came up as much this semester
Yeah.
because it it wasn't even. I was always busy, yes, but like I said, like I had time off. I could have just went up, and there was one time I did, and I was glad I did. But then when I came back, it wasn't even. I missed it. I missed being at Berkeley, but at the same time, like getting back in that motion of just like only interacting with the same people every day. And
It's hard to quantify the value of like maintaining good Christian friendships.
yeah,
But
that's the thing I wasn't doing. It was maintaining. I wasn't maintaining at all. Like
yeah.
that's what I mean when I say investing.
And on top of that, it feels a little selfish, right? Because like you say that one time you went up, it felt really good to come up, but then you never want to like just do something because it feels good. I mean, that's like I don't know if that's the kind of
Yeah,
person you are. Like you feel like I shouldn't just do things because they feel good. And it's like, yeah, when it comes down to it, you shouldn't. But it turns out like maintaining and developing Christian friendships, it's more, yeah, it feels good. It can. And also there are other things that can be accomplished in doing
that's
that.
the reason why I point that out because the thing is, at work you're always with the same people. Outside of work, you don't have to talk to them. At school, you're with the same people. Outside of school, you don't have to talk to them. And I had the choice to, but I never really did. And like in terms of maintaining relationships with the people that I invested with, like I honestly feel like I should have put more into that. And a lot of people even you can say like the whole excuse of like, oh, you were working and stuff, but like at the same time, those were people that I trust too. It's not like, and it's not a misplaced trust either. They've all proven themselves
Yeah.
to be
So it's
trustworthy.
definitely something that's worth doing. Like if you can maintain a friendship, you should, I think. And like those are priorities that are I don't know, people that are
That
more
goes over, yeah. That goes over a lot of people's head these days, especially when you
it's
when
amazing to me actually that it went over your head considering how much you analyze social situations and how much more socially like adept you are, how much more socially fed you are. Like you seem to me to be a person that's like more fed by social interaction. Like you would rather be at a party than be alone.
yes and no, but like this semester.
For me, I would 100% always rather be alone than be at a party.
Oh, for me, it depends.
That's and the fact that it depends. Yeah.
This semester like literally proves that, because like I didn't spend time on like maintaining or going to parties or hanging out with friends. It was all just like the same thing you're doing, going in the motion.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well,
I mean, that's what you were doing essentially.
not this semester. This semester, actually.
Well, I'm talking about when you were first.
Yeah. For the first 2.5 years of college, I definitely was like very happy to just like be getting by, and like I felt like because my grades were not stellar, my grades were not like top of my class, that I couldn't become the kind of person that like, I don't know, maybe this is like an Asian household thing, but like I was aware of how much money my parents were spending to send me to college. And I'm like, yeah, but they're not paying for me to like talk to people. They're not paying for me to make friends. They're paying for me to get good grades and eventually get a good job. And weirdly, I ended up taking a bunch of classes that killed my GPA and did not help me at all for my major. So that didn't work out very well. And then it turns out that a lot of the advantage of being in college, so this is like a message to any freshmen out there, is like a lot of the advantage to being in college is like making and maintaining friendships that can last your whole life if you maintain them.
Yeah, and when you say that, I want to point out that like it's not just networking. You don't have to be
right.
Always have to be friends with only people that are the same major as you.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not friends with anyone. I have like I have two friends in my major. Other than that, every other person that I'm friends with at Berkeley is like pre-med or econ or.
I feel like that's the beauty of like that's the beauty of like life in general, is that like knowing so many other people and knowing what path they're on, or not even knowing what path they're on, but like getting to know that, and seeing their struggles versus yours, or not so much comparing, but more like empathizing with it.
Yeah, I would say that's if you can learn to love hearing like what somebody else is passionate about, learn to like love to hear how someone is like struggling through something and like how they're going to overcome and like what their struggle is. If you can learn to appreciate that without like having the ego thing in your mind, which is like, oh, my struggle is harder, oh, like my major is harder, like,
yeah,
I throw that in as a joke sometimes, but like, to be honest, it's not like I want to write like a 20-page essay. That sounds like hell. Mm-hmm. And it's not because I can't, I just don't want to do that.
You know how I always say that me and you always have different like opinions and values?
We don't always, but yeah, I think we sometimes have different opinions and values.
Yeah, but like when I say that, it's more like socially in general.
Yeah, I like the way our idle minds consider the value of other people. Because I was feeling okay, like for 2.5 years, basically socially interacting with no people, hanging out with no people, just going to class, coming home, and like being by myself and like doing solitary tasks. Like my brain was telling me like, that is chill, that is ideal, keep doing that. It actually took more reading of the scriptures and understanding that God wants us to like live together in community for me to be like, okay, I actually have to overcome my natural state in order to please God, because
I have to evolve.
I literally have to evolve. Like I am level 20. I am level 25, and I've been pressing B every level up and not evolving. And it's like, bruh, you gotta evolve. Stop resisting it just because like you like how cute this first evolution looks like. You gotta evolve. And you gotta evolve to the ugly second stage. The second stage is always ugly. and it really was ugly for some time. Like, I think if people were to become more aware of that, like it's a thing that'll really, if you feel like you've been stagnating in your faith, think about the thing that like that really is a comfort for you, and think about whether doing something else would please God more, and if it would, just completely change what like just do exactly what you don't feel comfortable doing in order to please the Lord more. Like there, I think everybody has something, like something that's in their comfort zone that is not as pleasing to the Lord as it could be if you stepped out of it. For me, it was being a part of Christian community. For others, it's like, I don't know, I can't even imagine what it'd be like for other people, but like there's definitely something, right? And like I think that's like a big, some people wonder why they read the scripture and they don't like feel like they're growing in their faith or whatever, and it's like they're like hangups that people have, and um, some of them are really hard ones to get by. Like I know some people like have a hard time, picturing God as father. God like clearly wants us to consider him as like a perfect heavenly father, but people who like did not have perfect earthly fathers or anything close to that sometimes have to struggle to get past like the image of earthly fathers in order to start worshiping God like the father that he wants to be to them. And like some of them have pushed that sort of thing away instead of embracing it against their nature. So like things like that, I think that's a big breakthrough. If you're like, especially with all this alone time, just like if you're getting introspective, just start thinking about like what are the things in your life that need changing or that are not 100% dedicated to the Lord. And I think because I like my life became so much more, I think, full. I grew so much closer to the Lord when I got closer to people and crew. Like when I made an express effort to like reclaim my friendship with you, and then like through that connect with like Christians that are at Berkeley with all their different struggles, and like attempt to, share life with them and share faith with them, like the Bible study and all that. It was
I feel like the hardest thing that anybody can like, not the hardest thing, but one of the hard things to put yourself in, like mentally, is like thinking. It's just an easy hole to put yourself in. Is thinking like, oh, I'm alone, and the reason why I say that is because as it's hard to like even say it, because like I think that sometimes, but there's like a point. There's a lot of people disagree with me on this, but I feel like there's a piece of pride there.
Pride in,
and like if you just honestly like, I understand if like you want to like keep it to yourself, but like if you talk to anybody out there, they might not like, or even like your closest friend, they might not like, let's say they might not understand, and in that case like you might think you're like even more alone. But like even though a person can't understand your feelings or your problems, they can still be there for you, you know?
yeah. I mean, we as Christians, like we understand that there is a value in that kind of interaction more than any secular person would, right? Like people that don't know God, right? If they are in that position where like they have a problem that none of their close friends can understand, like objectively, there's no reason for them to tell them. It's just kind of a waste of time. But for us as Christians, we know that like having more people pray for you, it can only be a good thing. Even if they don't understand your problem, just to have a friend that like will hear you.
It's not even that, but like for me, there's a time where I thought that, and then I wasn't friends with you at this time, or yeah, because it was in high school.
Yeah.
And like I was going on this whole rant, like getting mad at everybody, and then my uncle goes and talks to me and says like, all right, I can't understand you, like I haven't been there, but I'm here for you. And like those words, man, like that's, even though, because I feel like when you're at that point, you get to a point to where you don't even care about what anybody else has to say. You know,
Yeah.
like,
You've convinced yourself that there's like nothing they could say, and
and even if they did say something, you're already shutting your ears off.
yeah, you're saying
And
these people don't understand.
and the one thing that I from all of that shutting off, the one thing that I heard, and the one thing that like I will always remember is just him saying that to me, because the thing is like just those words alone kind of like at that point in my life like just like made me like cry like a little kid, because like
It's almost like he read your mind. He knew exactly what you needed
I
to
wanted
hear.
to I felt like my problem, my struggle or whatever was being validated, like it was like someone was actually listening. And even though they didn't have an answer, or they didn't have anything to like offer to actually help me, just being there for me was,
It was probably like invaluable to you at the time.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't that word like is perfect, but I was trying to look for a word that was kind of different. It's just crazy now that I think about it.
Yeah, I mean those are parts of friendship that I like. I probably need to work on, because I I've always been like, in when it comes to relationships, like a problem solving type, and so like I start to get like extremely self conscious if I can't solve a problem, and so even though like sometimes those words are the best you can say, I loathe to say them. Sometimes I say nothing instead, and that's not better.
A lot of the times, like you said, that like it's just easier to just not say anything.
Yeah, sometimes
Not even sometimes. I feel like
I think naturally it's easier to not say anything than
yeah,
to admit that I can't understand you, and still I want to like sit with you. But honestly, like when it comes to male friendship, sometimes you don't want someone to cry with you. You just want someone to sit there with you.
yeah, and that's what I needed at that point.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was just, um,
Seriously, God sends heroes, and sometimes like, and when I was saying like, yes, yeah, you always could have people pray for you. There's certain struggles that people go through. Is I think a lot of Christians, young Christians, will go through this, especially like there are times when you'll go through a struggle, like a faith shaking level struggle, where if you hear something about the faith, it will like it will like make you mad. It'll turn you off. Like you won't even want to hear that someone is praying for you. Like
yeah,
and
and
sometimes you just need to hear like somebody just like be there for you, and later on you can start to like pick up the pieces. But like at this moment, like the wound is so open, I can't hear the love of God directly. I need to hear it indirectly.
yeah,
Like it's gonna burn if you put like God right here. It reminds me of the story of like Andrew Clavin, like, and his story of how he came to faith, where he lived his whole life as a secular Jew, and then he like went into a deep depression, and he was like, he's a writer, so he's like sitting there in his room and he's writing, and he's got this like alcohol in one hand, and he's got like pills in the other hand. He's like ready to take his own, no, he's got a gun rather on his left, and he's like ready to take his own life, and he's listening to baseball on the radio, and he has his favorite player who's a Christian who's always talking about his faith, and he's sitting there with his hand on the gun like ready to kill himself. And he writes in his book like, if that player had come on the mic after the game and they interviewed him and he said something about Jesus, I would have completely taken it in one ear out the other. But instead, when he came up to the mic and they interviewed him, like, how did you play? Like, you were injured. How did you manage to get through that? And if he had said like, oh, the Lord helped me play through it or something, he would have just taken it in one ear out the other. But instead, what he said was, sometimes you just have to play in pain.
yeah,
And that's a Christian player
crazy.
said nothing about Christ, and because of that, it saved his life.
It's crazy. Yeah, that like whole thing is crazy because like it's it's not right, you know.
Yeah, but
I,
we're not right.
that's not a yeah, it's not a right state of mind to be in ever.
Yeah,
But like it happens and
yeah.
time.
That's real. That's if you're speaking realistically, like God even understands that, right? If you read through the whole book of Esther, God not brought up even once his people are far from him, and God doesn't save him by like at that moment forcing them to admit that he is Lord. He instead saves them without them even mentioning his name. Sometimes God is willing to go nameless on the album just to play you a song that you'll actually listen to. I mean, that's the humility of God, that he won't even take top billing sometimes just in order to get a hold of you.
I say maintaining friendships out of your own is like showing that you care about them in your own time. Everyone has different ways of actually doing that.
Yeah.
It's fundamentally the same, but like this person will ask you to go study, or this person will ask you, you want to hang out, or this person will ask you like, won't even ask you. You just have like a random conversation with the person out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, how do you? Because I mentioned that like you show that you care about someone differently than I do, and like, how do you do that?
I'm bad at the reaching out thing. I think there's like a subtle fear of rejection that I have that keeps me from just like that at some points in my life kept me from just like, oh, I haven't talked to this guy in a while. Let me just call him up and let's see if we can arrange to hang out, like, so I can talk to him again. Like, there's a part of me that doesn't want. I don't want to hear like them be like, nah, that's cool, man. I'm kind of busy, because then my brain reads that as like, oh, they actually just never liked me, and I just interpreted them, and that like that kind of rejection, like it hurts, and that's the risk you take by reaching out. But like the way I show it, I guess, is like I'm the guy who's I like to try to be always down. Like if somebody reaches out to me, I almost I've turned around the like I as a kid mostly, like before I had a car, I used to say like no to everything just to keep my family life like in my head. Like I was keeping things, sameness is very important, especially in houses with an autistic child. So I was like, I use that as an excuse to like really shut things down and stay in my natural state, which is alone. But once I got my freedom a little bit, like I started to say yes to more things. And then like when it came to the part where I was like really making an effort to become a part of Christian community, I decided like I'm going to say yes to as literally as many things as possible. Like even if it's like 3 things in 1 week, even if it's like me driving like an hour 2 ways, I'm just going to do it because I need to prioritize it. Otherwise, it's never going to become a big part of my life. So like I feel like that's the way I show affection towards people that I care about. Like when they say like, "Oh, do you want to do this?" and they're just like, just casually put it out there. I say yes, and I just show up. And I don't ever like, I don't leave people on a like out on a limb. I can't say that like when it comes
to that actually.
Yeah, you just got so many unread messages. It's hard to differentiate them.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't, as much as like I'm like quote unquote good with social interaction, like in terms of like showing up to things is like something I struggle with. And like maybe that's not apparent to like group people, but like it's definitely something that I need to work on, because there are times where I'll get invited to something, I'll be like yes in the moment, and then day comes, I'll just be like maybe. And then like what turned into maybe will turn into like a lie and be like, oh, my mom told me I can't go.
So now we know that some of those were lies.
In terms of doing it with you, it's different.
If you combined you and me, we would have almost the perfect social interaction level human. Like you would have me, Mr. John.
I actually don't agree. I think about it and I don't agree with it.
What do you mean?
Why I don't agree with it is because there are people that are like that, but like I feel like me and you just play off each other really well.
So you think we're better as separate people?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's definitely a reason why God didn't just make us one person.
If you no, the reason why I say that is because like I'm not denying there's a perfect mix between the two of us. And I don't even like saying that in general because it sounds hecka like
A little conceited.
yeah, selfish, like annoying, fat, and dumb in general. But the reason why is um because there's two of us talking to one person, there'll always be a group.
That's true. I feel bad for
and
that.
Talking to a person in a group
is hard when you're just one person. Like one person approaching a group, that's always
no, but it's different. Like when me and you, okay. The reason why I say that it's better that we're a group than a single person is because single one-on-one interaction is way different than like a group, and especially when you're new in the group, it's like you find a level of like entertainment from just watching two people talk.
yeah. Like if you already have a rapport with somebody, like so you're already friends with somebody, then
like me and you, like
yeah, you and me can banter off each other, and if somebody laughs at that, that's a way in for them.
yeah, and then they'll just say something. But like if it was one-on-one, there's always, not even always, but there's like in certain situations there's more of a like personal bubble.
Yeah, I mean, people are trying to protect their own egos. They don't want to be attacked right off the bat. So
and there's nothing wrong with that at all.
There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's totally natural.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's doing it, but that is the advantage you have when you have somebody with you that you know values you but is ready to like poke fun at you. Then you know they don't think that you're nothing. And that way that you can banter with them and show that you're chill.
And like the thing is between me and you is that we're always like insulting each other
big time.
So like it's so much more easier to like close to take off a mask or like put down a wall when you're just joining in on that kind of banter, you know.
I feel like so many I could rattle off names like people that were willing to open up after they saw us interact with each other. I feel like Justin is one of them.
David
for sure. Michael, yep. Most of the guys in crew are pretty.
Nick, what's his name? Buff Nick. He graduated.
Nick Foraker. Yeah. Well, I feel like Nick is just a very open person. Nick might have just opened up all this.
100%. There was like
there was a lightness to our conversation when you were around that like
it got a lot more physical. Let's just say that.
All right. Well, we didn't have him on this podcast. That would be so entertaining.
But like,
I will say it's definitely a sausage fest because I don't know of any women that have opened up to us.
No,
we didn't make much of an effort for that, to be honest.
Not even, but like even then, like there were people that opened up to us like that. Like
Think?
Noreen and everyone from like when you first started joining the crew like music thing.
Yeah, I would say that like
Dylan.
Yeah, for sure, Dylan. Dylan actually, surprisingly so, like she actually invited me to play bass at her church, and I did for a little bit. Her church happens to be really weird and kind of off-putting, but like she's, I mean, like I would say that if you're like new to some church community and you like are struggling to find friends, like just join something. Like if you're mature enough to serve in some capacity, do it. If it's, I mean, I think you should take whatever capacity you're considering as seriously as you ought to. Like if you, like for instance, worship, right? You shouldn't just do it to make friends and not really care if you worship the Lord. Like you should take that seriously for the sake of your soul, because I mean, God takes that seriously. But at the same time, like just joining stuff will help you to, it'll give you an in with people. And that like honestly worked for me. Like those are the first people I got close to were the people on the worship team at Crew.
Yeah.
And I think I started inviting you after that. So like you were there to help me like expand that.
Hey, I'm here.
That's right. Social interaction coach.
But like being there for people in general, it's a lot of people say like it's easy to do for some people, but like coming from me, it's just hard.
What do you think they're better at? I have a feeling that it's like people that are better at being there for people. I feel like some of it comes down to like when you reach out to somebody and they say like, no, I'm busy. That
empathy.
They just reach out again later.
I mean, the reason why is just because like the reason why I say empathy is because when people are like that with me, I don't take it personal at all. All I say is, okay, they're probably genuinely busy.
Oh.
And then leave it at that. And then go back to it. Because the thing is like you were saying that like, oh, you went straight to the conclusion of like, oh, they don't really like me.
Yeah, that's right. That's very easily bruised egos over here.
But like it's like I said, we're all on the same path, and as much as like we'd want to start a friendship or like maintain or like reach out and rekindle a new one, like or rekindle an old relationship. Like it's a 2-player game, you know.
Yeah, it's a 2-player general sum game.
It needs to go both ways.
Yeah, and there's advantages and disadvantages to each one, but like it's just the willingness to play the game even if you like lose a match is, I think, what separates and I think some people are just more confident that they're not like annoying to people or something. People with like people with less strong personalities or more chill personalities, like, oh, this person probably is busy, because there's no way they just like dislike me fundamentally. But I don't know. For me, I feel like there are definitely reasons people don't like me fundamentally if they don't like me. Like, and it's not because of like timing. I think it's just like, oh, they don't like something that is like very intrinsically me. So it's like, well, I mean, I can't fix that. I mean, it's just
yeah. I'm thinking, and I honestly like, because we've always like this whole conversation has been about like Christian friendships.
Yeah.
But like,
because we're talking about level 100 friendships, and I don't know if you agree with this, but I think that you, as Christians, I don't think you can really have a level 100 friendship with a non-believer as a Christian. You can be a good friend to somebody, but the level 100, I think that comes to it being a two-way street. Like you can't be level 100 with somebody and them not be level 100 with you. And if they're level 100 with you, they can't be that fundamentally different worldview wise. Like you can't believe that there's a God who loves us and sent his son to die for us, and then believe that there's nothing or something, or like be a Hindu that just believes that God is like worse than us.
I mean, I honestly feel like I'm on the opposite end there.
Yeah, I kind of figured you would disagree with me on that.
Not totally, but like I'm on the opposite end, like clearly, because like my whole thing is that like if you can be friends with somebody and have different opinions with, and I always mention this, it's like a good friendship.
But don't you think that there's some like that, I mean, if somebody has different goals than you, like their goals cannot be the same as you if you if one person wants to see like the gospel come to every nation and the other person like believes it's all nonsense. I don't like that's not a difference of opinion in my that like that's a difference of worldview. Like they're looking at the world and they're not seeing the same world that you're seeing. Like you're not arguing over an opinions.
But I mean, like having a level 100 friendship or whatever you want to call
Yeah, it's starting to
it's
sound
just
goofy,
it's just all communication in general. And like
yeah.
and like
But isn't it more than it's not all communication.
I honestly feel like in those type of friendships they're because of because of um because of the disagreement your faith becomes stronger.
I think there's a lot to be gained from having friendships that are not that are with non-believers. I think you should have as high a level of friendship as you can. I just don't think it could ever be level 100 because they cannot care for you like the person that you are unless they're a Christian, because they don't believe that you are an eternal soul. Like, I mean, they don't believe that you are what you actually are. They don't believe that they are what they actually are. They don't fundamentally know what life is about. So, but you do. I'm saying that this is different, right? I actually think two non-believers can have a level 100 friendship with each other. But I think if your worldview is so fundamentally different as ours is with any other worldview out there, I'm not sure if there's any way that somebody else can care for you in the same way that you care for them. And I think a level 100 friendship has to be mutual to that degree. Like you have to care for them the same way they care about you. And like, if you know they're unsaved, what you really care about is their soul. And I mean, there's no way they care about that for you if they're not a believer.
Yeah, but like if you're saved already, then they don't even have to like they don't even have to care about your soul. You know.
I know, but they can level 100 friendship care about you in general, and you can actually.
I mean, like
share.
Yeah, and like you could share the same interaction. I'm thinking about it. Like you literally share the same interactions and the same like they just show it differently. I mean, like they show it from an unsafe perspective, but like to them, that's still level 100. That just means they're not safe.
Yeah, but the thing is like that we don't believe that to be an opinion.
What do you mean?
Do you believe that your faith is an opinion?
No.
You believe it's fact.
Yeah, and they believe what their stuff is fact.
I know, but you know that they're wrong.
True, but I'm not. But it's not like I'm gonna stop sharing gospel.
That's what I think. I don't think that like if somebody is not like on if you still.
And at the same time, like I believe that person would never stop trying to like convert me to them. But like I'm not gonna deny that like you can still have the same conversations, the same like thing. It's just always gonna be like there are things that you're going to abstain to do and that they're going to do, and I don't know.
When I think of a level 100 friendship, I'm thinking of like they tell you to do something and you trust that their read is correct. That even if you don't know why it's correct and you can't figure it out at the moment, you just follow their advice, or you trust what they're saying is like accurate, like beyond what you can verify. And like,
but I mean, like you can trust an unsafe person like that when it comes to opinions outside of Jesus and stuff.
I don't know if that's true, dude. I'm pretty sure our like I don't know. Maybe that is just the way I see it, but like I think our world,
I mean,
my
like,
world informs every single decision I make, from like career stuff to like academia to like the way I like how I exercise. Like I don't. To me, there are no mundane topics. My worldview literally informs everything. Like if I had a friend that was atheist or whatever, and he was like a real gym rat, like he really cared about all this nutrition stuff, like gym is his life or whatever, me and him like we disagree on worldview so much that if he started giving me workout advice, I would have to second guess it and say like, is this really in line with what God wants for my life? Probably not, because his hierarchy of importance is different than mine. God comes first for me and informs everything below it. For him, this life is all that matters.
But I mean, if he was a gym rat, the type of advice he would be giving is like gym stuff, and
I know.
even though he's unsafe, you can still trust him on that.
No, I don't think you can.
You can't trust a gym rat on gym stuff.
No, I would trust
They're
a
unsafe.
Christian. I would trust a Christian gym rat because first of all, I think that like everything has to have
Are
its
you
place.
trying to say that like? Are you trying
I
to?
think you can use it. I'm just saying you just can't take his word as gospel.
But I'm like,
You can pick out.
but if what happens if they have like quote unquote the perfect bod?
But the thing is, like, that's not those aren't my goals. Like, he's prioritized a different thing. Like, if he's
But like if he's giving you advice in the first place, isn't the question that's coming up is like, how do I do this better, or how is my form, or because in that, like, even if they're unsaved, like they can still give you good advice.
yeah, I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying that, like, in the absence of evidence, right? You can't check whether it's good advice or bad advice. Should you just follow it like verbatim? Like, if you gave me advice and I didn't have any prior experience with the situation, so I didn't know whether it was good or not, I would just take your advice because I trust you and that you and I have similar goals and that you wouldn't tell me something unless you knew what it was best for me and for my soul.
But I mean, like, a person, unsaved person can think the same way. It's just like,
Yeah, but they're wrong. We know they're wrong.
yeah, but they're what the best for what, like, okay, for them, like the best of them is like your health, and like, in what way could they be wrong about that? Like,
If you had a best, like, here's a situation, right? That's a kind of realistic. I've had unsaved friends that have told me like, oh, you should just get on Tinder and you should go and, like, lose your virginity. You should just go.
oh well, that's different. There's
Right.
other unsaved people that have a different view from that, though.
That's what. Yeah, but I'm saying that, like,
Just because
those are the kinds of opinions that come from people that don't share our worldview. And it's fundamental to not sharing our worldview because they think that this life is all there is, that their bodies are just matter, that they don't have an eternal soul. Like, if you disagree on things that are that fundamental, I'm not sure how you.
No, the reason why I say what I say is because, like, they're like, it makes sense that if you didn't believe in God, like, the way to play the world or the way to play life is just to, like, always choose the easy way out and, like, always have fun in, like, a worldly sense, because, like, your body's not going anywhere afterwards.
Yeah.
But, like, there are actually some people who will carry a different, like, they have a moral code, quote unquote, you know.
But don't you think that, like, if somebody does that, to me, my first, like, response to meeting somebody that's like that is not to just, like, well, I mean, I'll be obviously I try to be friendly with as many people as I can. I try to be winsome in this or that, but, like, when I think of, like, the closest relationship possible, I'm not thinking of somebody who I have to tell, like, oh, your worldview doesn't make any sense. Like, that's what I want to tell people that have a good moral code but don't believe in God. Their worldview doesn't make any sense.
Okay, but then if you get over the fact that you guys both have different worldviews, like, you can still, like, but you know that they always have, like, good intentions, and they're always, quote unquote, doing good things. Like,
The person that suggests you to go on a Tinder date and, like,
but the thing
that person
is,
also has good intentions.
But the argument that I'm trying to say is that not everybody's like that. Not everyone's going to say, oh, like,
But I'm saying that kind of
it's easy. I'm just saying,
kind of
like,
thing will happen in some area. It won't be that thing, but it'll be something else because that's how different our worldviews are from every other worldview.
okay, if it's something else, then what would it be?
I don't have to sit here and come up with examples. You know it to be true.
Well, I mean,
Bringing it back to Daniel, right? I mean, he literally chose not to eat the food that everybody else was eating. That's how, like.
But Christians these days eat meat.
My point is that, like, that's how different our worldviews are. It comes even to, like, eating decisions.
But, like,
The most mundane things. Daniel chose to prioritize the Lord. Nobody else in that society was, and he had to go against the grain to do it and ignore what everybody was saying.
because I mean, like, if you cut worldviews aside, like, in terms of like what we eat is literally the same thing as like unsaved people.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm living in the big Christian freedom.
In terms of what we agree on is a healthy body is the same as unsaved people.
I don't agree with that mostly.
Well, I mean, like your term. I mean, what you want for yourself is just like a not a cut body in the first place.
Yeah.
But that's not the same view for all Christians.
I know, but I think they're wrong. Anyway, I just think that like it's just like everything else in Christianity, it's a priorities thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if you're gonna come at me that way, then it makes sense.
Yeah, and I think I had this disagreement with my mom as well. Like, and I said like I wouldn't date a non-believer, and she like was surprised and upset because that's how most disagreements start between me and her.
That's weird though. I don't know. I don't believe in flirting to convert.
Neither do I.
I won't deny. I won't deny that it hasn't happened. I've seen it happen, and it's
yeah, that's right.
But like for me, myself, and I, like,
it's kind of the story of the Old Testament.
The reason why I wouldn't do that is because like in terms of what you want in like that type of friendship or that type of relationship, that type of like life goal that you want with somebody, you want somebody that knows what they believe, knows how to back it up, knows like can grow with you.
This is where I say like that's what I want out of my level 100 friendships.
Yeah, and like with most new Christians, it's like they're on that whole milk thing. Instead of going back to the Bible, they're on that whole milk thing. And
if I may briefly go back to the Bible and point out what I said when I said that's the story of the Old Testament.
Let me finish.
Oh, you cut me off.
When?
Earlier, I was saying that's the story of the Old Testament. And what I mean by that is like when you say like dating the non-believers, flirt to convert, I feel like the Israelites tried flirt to convert and it never worked out. They always ended up worshiping their gods instead of them worshiping the God of Israel.
But like
they never worshiped the God of Israel. The people that married the Israelites.
Okay.
Even though their God is the only one that has ever done actual miracles.
Even if it hasn't worked in the Bible, it's worked. It's worked.
That's right.
And there's no denying it's not going to work again. But the thing is, what I'm trying to say is the reason why I bring up the whole milk and meat thing is because new Christians in general, when you're giving a person milk, you're the person giving them milk, you know?
Yeah, they don't get milk for themselves.
Yeah, you're the person giving them milk.
It's fed to them, yeah.
In terms of a relationship, I don't want to be
with like, somebody that needs to be explicitly fed. You want someone that can feed themselves.
Yeah.
Somebody that can get up and go to the kitchen and put together some meat. In other words,
no, not for me, but like I just want to put that out there. Not for me, but more like so themselves. And talking about like in a worldly sense of view, I'm literally talking about like their own faith.
Yeah, talking about like
being put that out there because when you threw at that kitchen thing, like
I'm saying like you people that are able to cook for themselves. Like in other words, people that are able to wake up in the morning and like open up their Bible and not leave until they hear the word of the Lord. Like
okay, I think people will need to hear
that. Yeah. I think for sure my analogy was definitely a little dicey.
A little scary.
Yeah, I'm gonna be in the New York Times tomorrow. Sexist Berkeley student starts podcast. I could be called worse things than sexist. Going back to like, I think that is the fundamental difference we're talking about. Like the way you reacted to like dating non-believers, that's the way I feel about level 100 friendships. Like, because to me, once you reach level 100 with somebody, you're basically married to that person because you can't break up with your friends. So like once you actually reach level 100, like they're with you for life, hell or high water. So you better be ready to grow with this person because they can't be holding you back.
Ride or die.
That's right. That was actually a topic I was thinking of bringing up. How important is ride or die to you?
Very.
So if I murdered
Be
somebody,
friends with you if you don't ride or die.
what?
I mean, I can't reach a point of level. I can't reach a level. Like there's a ceiling to the level you can meet with me if you're
If
not.
you're not ride or die.
But if you aren't, then there is no ceiling.
So how ride or die are you? So if I murdered somebody and I came and I told you, I still have blood on my hands. I'm like, I got the dead body in my trunk. What do you do?
Help you bury it.
Help me bury it. You help me. You help me with the cover up story, or do you just like say you got to deal with this?
No, I would not help you with the cover up story.
So you're not gonna be my alibi.
No,
Damn. Thought you would ride or die.
no, that's different.
There's levels. That's just all I'm saying.
Ride or die as in like, I'm gonna go do this crazy thing. You want to come with me? And you come.
Like what? Like murder?
No, like skydiving, cliff diving.
Oh, I'm definitely not that. I'm not going.
Going in an abandoned house.
I'll do that because I don't really give a.
Trespassing into like abandoned house property.
If it's abandoned, I'm down. I'm not going skydiving though.
Exorcisms.
What do you mean exorcisms? You're going to the Philippines?
No, like exorcisms are a real thing, and like
I know, but they're mostly in the third world. They happen in India a lot.
Yeah, and
Also in the Philippines. I'm very skeptical of the ones that happen in the United States, to be honest.
I'm okay with doing stuff, with doing anything. Like ride or die is in like.
I think you and me have very different.
I don't agree with even though. Okay, for example, I don't like melee. I don't really play melee.
You're so pronouncing it so wrong too.
You want to take me to a melee tournament? Like, I'm down. I don't really care.
Yeah, for sure. And like, you want to take me to like a flea market where they're selling Supreme sweatshirts for $700 or whatever it was. I'm down. I'm just gonna walk around with you, and I'll walk around with you in a mall for you to buy $100 overalls. Like that's what you're into. I'm down.
Gang.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely taking an interest in what the other person, because you never. It's honestly a little dangerous to just like hang out with someone because they're very interested in the same thing that you are, and be like. I almost think that caps you as friends because you can never really show them that level of dedication that it takes to like go outside of your comfort zone for the other person, or to like do something that like that you're not totally into, but you can show them that you're like, I'm just going to be there for you. Like, I'm not here for this.
Like hardcore ride or die would be like, if you're getting jumped, I'm getting jumped.
Yeah, hell yeah. And I'm all for that. I'm not walking away from, dude, if you're going to die, I'm going to die too. That's how it works. If it's the same altercation.
Yeah.
I'm not living through that. But like, I actually honestly think that's why marriages where people are more different, like have more different interests as opposed to like a lot of the same interests.
If it's
like,
marriage, I would rather have my wife live just because like.
Oh no, I'm talking about the altercation. Yeah. No, I'm talking about like interests. Like,
if my wife's getting jumped, I'm going to get jumped in her place. That's different.
That's right. You push her behind you and say, you are now no longer getting jumped. Bye. If you turn around and you're like, all right, fellas. And ladies, who knows?
No, but like, ride or die is also, I take the fall for you. Like, for example, in high school, my senior year, I took Calculus 1B. There's this one. This is when I was like the most away from God I was ever.
Taking calculus, man, it'll draw you away from the Lord.
Shut up, boy. But like, what happened? Okay, you don't know the story, no. But this calculus teacher was like literally the worst math teacher in the whole school, and not in terms of like how he taught, but like his just tests were just like so hard all the time for no reason.
Yeah.
And
that's whack.
And it was just like way like the level of work and the level of quiz and homework was literally the same, but like when it came to like tests,
Like the homework is like integrate x squared, and the test is like integrate the Gaussian.
you get like the fattest headache. But like what we end up doing is he would I organized this. Okay, this is a life story. I organized this thing where um he was a soccer coach and for a school, and he would open the classroom to people to study, yeah, after school, and then at one point he would leave to go practice, um to go coach practice, and people that were studying in there were allowed to stay. So I organized um my class the whole period to cheat.
Yeah, I sort of saw where this was going.
And what we did is we would specifically choose whose turn it is to stay after school, and like draw straws or whatever, like, and vote for people to stay, and that person would stay, take a picture of the test answers and the work. He did the work on the freaking papers too. It was,
Whoops.
because he gave points for that. So
Yeah, you sort of have to at higher level math.
and um send that picture to the group Facebook Messenger, like, and then a couple tests later, this was all like doing so well.
Man, I suddenly became a really good teacher. Is what he's thinking.
No. What happened is that every single period he teaches calculus throughout all 6 periods, and we were the last period, and only my period was the only period to not just ace the test, but like the other periods failed the test.
Yeah.
Literally failed every single period. Failed the test.
You guys are just legends.
We literally passed, like, got A's. And
savage.
He didn't know how, but he confronted the whole class. He gave us his whole talk. He was threatening to punish the whole class.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And what happened is he's such a nice guy. He was so lenient. So we took advantage of the fact that he was nice, and the only people who took the fall was me, who started, and this other guy.
He stood up and said, "I am Spartacus." Here's where I'm going to edit in that scene from Spartacus where they're all standing up and saying that they're Spartacus.
My colleagues, this is about the closest I'll probably ever have in my life to an "I am Spartacus" moment.
And then, right,
had a real "I am Spartacus" moment, unlike Cory Booker.
What came out of that was a week of detention and a retake for me. Thank God it was only a retake. And
was it the same questions, or did he modify them?
He modified them, if I remember.
Okay. Yeah,
but
that would be really 3-head if he didn't modify them.
But he still let everybody else go in the class. A's.
And a retake is pretty lenient, to be honest.
Very lenient.
Yeah, he could have just failed you. At Berkeley, we were having the cheating problem this last semester because everything turned online. And I don't know if I've told you this, but most of the people that listen to this podcast will, but already know this, but that CS midterm where, people just, that site Chegg, where people just upload answers and such, that one of the TAs for a CS class, CS 70, I think, he went on to Chegg and uploaded a version of the test, but put in all the wrong answers. And so many people.
I heard about that story.
Yeah, he basically. I
saw it on Twitter.
Yeah, it became a big deal because that guy just literally failed so many students because of that. And it's like, in my head, I'm like, thank God somebody's doing something, because I feel bad for all the bio kids, because in
Mhm.
bio the answers are all like, I took bio 1B. Bio 1B is a test is all multiple choice, meaning that like once you have the answers, there's no like work or anything. You just friggin' circle in the answers, and if it's online, you can just cheat. And like if you cheat, you'll get 100%. And like you
Mhm.
can't tell who's cheating. I guess there's no way to check it really. So the people that are taking the test honestly are probably getting like, not 80 to 90% of it right, because these pre-med kids are hella good at memorizing stuff. But like the kids that are cheating are getting 100. So it's like
Yeah.
the spread is like, do you be honest and end up with a C in the class because you're
That
so
curve is
below?
crazy.
Yeah, that curve will just like screw all the people that are honest and reward only the people that cheat, which is pretty whack.
But yeah, that was
So glad I'm in a major that wouldn't even help.
that was my example of ride or die in my life.
But that's not even a friendship thing for you. You're just a ride or die person. Because you took the fall for a bunch of people. Like, I mean, you don't even you probably can't remember all of their names.
Bro, I made like, okay, when people were joining that, because I charged people to join the thing because other people, what?
You took money.
Yeah,
You took blood money.
because like people, it was like being spread. It was a rumor that was being spread around, and people were like asking from like other periods to join, and I was like, okay.
Wait, if the other periods were in on it, how come they didn't get good grades?
It wasn't a lot. It was
everybody in your section and not
everybody in my period knew it as fact, and everybody else in the school knew it as a rumor.
makes sense.
And like people in those periods, like since it was a rumor, there was only a little bit of them, and yeah. Oh yeah, another reason why we got caught is because like I guess one of the people that were actually trying hard in our period snitched on us.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, and there's a part of me that is like that. If I found out all of you are cheating, the thing is I never did. I always felt like doing it though. I connect with that feeling because I found out that that person who shall not be named, who is the only other person who was taking physics at Liberty, one of the other 4 people that were in that class. I found out that she was cheating in physics, and it was like, I didn't rat her out, but like I felt like doing it because it's like freaking annoying. I just don't like it's
Yeah, I understand.
Physics at that level was so easy. Like, why do you feel the need to cheat? Like, what, you don't have time? What are you busy doing? I've always
That person that snitched became valedictorian of our class.
Yeah, that's the mentality that it takes.
And goes to Berkeley.
There you go.
But she if I remember correctly, she leads her life the same way you did your first 2 years.
Like as a shut-in or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not an unhappy life. It's just not right. Some people, I don't know. I feel like if you lived the way I lived, you would have been depressed. I feel like when you were living a sort of a solitary existence where you're just going from work to school to work to school to work to school, like you weren't very happy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like that for me. For me, I actually am pretty happy being alone. Like, but that's why it takes such a challenge to change from that. It's not that I'm not happy when I'm hanging out with people. I am. It's just that I'm not like so much more happy that I can't live without. So
I mean, I feel like it's easy. Like the reason why I understand the whole like lonely feeling to an extent is because like it's not just easy to do it, but like you just have more freedom.
Yeah, it's like, do I want to? Am I in the middle of this thing that I just immediately became bored of after 10 minutes? Okay, I'll do something else. If you're doing that with people, like,
yeah,
I had to sit through this like another 3 games of this,
yeah.
Otherwise, the person's gonna be pissed. Like there's all this metagaming you have to do with other people that you don't have to do with yourself.
Not that I ever feel that way, but it's just more like something to point out.
I think a lot of these things are like hella mental too, like the feeling, like the fear of being rejected from hanging out. It's like you think the feeling that of being rejected for hanging out will be worse than it ever actually is.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing is true, like if you hang out with someone you don't like click entirely, like you have a you just have like awkward conversations back and forth, like that's still not the worst thing in the world. Like I had one of those this semester, like I hung out with this guy named Matt. He's not saved, but like he's I know him, and I met him when I was a health major, and like hung out a little bit, and I feel like he is someone that is sort of like that. He sort of tends towards solid solitary living. And so I made it a point, like this semester, I'm going to reach out to him. We're going to hang out. So we went and got in and out. And it's like, it's part of who I am, that like, I always want to talk about the things that matter to me. And the things that matter to me are all connected to faith, because I think everything in my life is connected to faith. So like, if I don't want to just keep shutting down conversation, it's going to be a little awkward, because I'm going to have to try and talk about things that he cares about. And like, when I know deep down, like the things that he cares about only matter insofar as they matter for his soul, which he hasn't yet begun to care about. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the conversation's a bit awkward, a bit stilted, but it's like, that's still okay.
Like, oh yeah, another thing that I'd like to point out there with the whole ride or die thing, if you were in a one-on-one fight with the person, I would not jump in.
But wouldn't it depend? Like if somebody picks a one-on-one fight with me and it was not my intention to be in that one-on-one fight, you wouldn't help me?
If it's not your intention, yeah.
But you're saying if I pick a one-on-one fight, I expect you to leave me to that one-on-one fight.
Yeah.
But that's a man's honor. Like it would dishonor me for you to jump in on that. Like,
but if you started like
really beating my ass
and you were like, no, if it was beating your ass, then I'm sorry, you're getting your ass beat. But if he knocked you out and you were on the floor and knocked out and you like kept trying to do something,
yeah,
then I'd jump.
Kill me. You're not gonna let me die, but you are gonna let me get my ass beat.
Yeah,
that's a homie right there.
I mean, like, gotta learn how to fight.
There's some ass beatings that are necessary for education. I mean, I feel like I'm not using you as a close friend to the extent that you are useful, because I don't get in physical altercations. But if I was one that did and I needed backup, you would make good backup.
And even if, okay, and if me and you were in a fight, or no, if you saw me in a fight and this guy like whoops my ass, like I know that you're like, you'd reciprocate the feelings and like do something, but like I'd rather have you not, just because like
yeah, if he beat your ass, he's gonna beat my ass twice as hard. Yeah, I'm not a fighter, at least not yet. I mean, at some point when I have enough free time, I'm gonna learn a martial art, but
just do MMA.
Yeah, I'll probably just do MMA
or boxing.
Boxing seems like fun. I've hit the bag, and that's fun to me, like the heavy bag.
Because MMA, because sometimes fights get on the floor, but like 9 times out of 10, fights are just fist fights.
Yeah, that's what
boxing's always meta.
It's interesting that's true, but I guess they just, with boxing, I mean, the Greeks figured out everything mostly correct, and they invented boxing. So imagine the same people that invented debate basically also invented boxing.
But the sport of boxing has changed. The reason why
but I mean, they just started it.
It's changed from the Greek is because gloves are bigger now. So
yeah, for sure.
Just
you can hide behind them and shit.
Yeah.
That's how Floyd Mayweather, I've heard, wins. He's a
really good defensive art.
Very defensive.
Yeah.
A lot of things have changed since the Greeks. Even debate has changed since the Greeks.
Philosophy.
Yeah. Like yeah, well. No, philosophy, it really has changed. I mean, there
has, of it. But like
what's the popular philosophy among academics now?
It's more like branching off of the main body, and there's more arms coming out of it instead of you actually evolving.
I think there was like a bad stage of evolution, and that's where we're at right now. Postmodernism, like, which I think is actually the closest to a secular truth as you can get. It's basically Ecclesiastes is where people are at the moment, where life has ultimately no meaning. And if you can take a pill to feel good, you should do it because, like, whatever, your body is just like a bag of chemicals that makes you feel a certain way. But like ultimately, it's your body doesn't have any meaning, some expression of a higher existence. I mean, postmodernism is really an abomination. The idea that you can just define a human being any way that you want, or you can just redefine a human being, that all these things are socially engineered. There's nothing intrinsic about a human being.
Yeah.
It's sort of like I love it and I hate it. I hate that what it does to people, but I love the fact that basically secularists have now come to the end of what they can try to pretend their worldview results in. Like postmodernism is, I think, almost as close as you can get to the ultimate end of secularism, which is basically Ecclesiastes. So they came full circle. Like they worked all this time, 2,000 years after the Greeks, and they finally arrived at what Solomon arrived at 2,000 years before Christ.
I feel like you should stop the recording now.
I'm down. I think we've got enough. I'm surprised. I was actually surprised we got so much.